Hello wonderful people, Connor Whitmore here again with another video for you on the Nawtystep channel, and it is time for the fourth video of Yearly Favourites Week 2022 as I give you my top 20 bass albums of the year. A couple of rules for this video: one album per individual artist or group, so no group or artist can have more than one album on this list, and the albums have got to be mostly bass music, so at least half of it has to be bass music to qualify for this video, for this list. And we're going here upwards from 20 to number 1, with 20 more honourable mentions coming just before that, which I did still enjoy quite a lot, but not quite enough to make the main list. And as you all know, this was initially a top 15 video, but been quite a big year for bass albums, so I've decided to up it from 15 to 20. There are 40 albums when you take in the honourable mentions that can be mentioned here, and a few big names have been left out, which we will be finding out over the course of the video. So yeah, looking forward. But before we get going with that, I should just say this is just my personal picks, my own opinion, nothing objective or definitive here. And on that note, want to know what your favourites are. What are your favourite bass albums of the year, this year, 2022? And also, what do you make of my list? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it somewhere in between? Drop all your thoughts in the comments section down below. But yeah, here we go, the top bass albums of the year 2022. Kicking off with the honourable mentions. I shall see you all in a bit. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed that. Maybe saw a couple of albums from that honourable mentions list that you've enjoyed quite a bit over the course of the year. I wouldn't be surprised, they're all pretty good if you ask me. But moving on now to the main list, and at number 20 we have Renewal by Grey Code, a D&B album of the grungy variety, I would say. And if you've been watching these videos last week or so, you'll know that's my favourite kind of D&B at the moment, yeah, for sure. And this album in particular got a lot of memorable material on it, and it's spread out quite well over the course of the LP, and just quite hard-hitting, quite emphatic, quite impactful, and it just feels like it's got a point, it's got a style, a thing it wants to deliver, and it delivers it pretty effectively. At number 19 we have Sequel by Culture Shock, another D&B album, and some very, very, very good tracks on this LP, like Rise and Deconstruct. Visions and Lost as well, a little bit more towards the end. They're all top draw, those four in my opinion. I think the remixes at the end do take away a little bit of originality from the album in terms of just wanting more of a solo experience from front to back kind of thing. But still a nice D&B collection overall, and worthy of a place right here, I would say, for sure. At number 18 we have Visage with From Lead to Gold. Not them at their very best across the collection, I would say, but more than enough within the LP overall to firmly place here within the top 20, firmly within that. The first half in particular, just some of the best and naughtiest, darkest beats that I've heard this year. Them in full flow, I would say. I think if it had come out a little bit earlier, it would have placed a bit higher as well, could have gotten a bit more used to it. And if it was a little bit longer, a bit more darker music in there and amidst the more liquid stuff we get, yeah, those things could have put it a bit higher. But still, like I said, a lot of good on the LP. At number 17, we have Feral Fantasy from Must Die, the second album in a year and a half from him, which isn't really up there with Crisis Vision for me, which places my top album of the whole of last year from him, but still another good showing of his style, with a lot of experimentation here, post Never Say Die, not feeling withheld by genre or like he has to do a certain thing, a certain amount of dubstep or whatever. Yeah, here just doing exactly what he wants, which I think is fantastic, and it makes for a lot of good music. Again, not quite up there with Crisis Vision for me, but still a lot of good material here. At number 16 we have Suffuse by Crisby Chris, another LP for him in the main albums list this year, and another really good dose of his sound and style, if I'm being honest. Yeah, that really gnarly, half-time leaning kind of approach. The beats here, so good. Love the gristle of it overall, this album, the dark energy, the menace, the texture of all this sound, the design of it, just how it warms the ears and still has that bite beneath it. Yeah, just love it. Then at number 15 we have Vanity Fair by Neon Light, yet another D&B album, but this one I think more alluring of the ones we've got so far. Just brings you in very readily and easily with, for me, some of the grooviest hooks and lead lines that you're going to hear in D&B all this year. Yeah, just a real character, a real charm to it over the course of the LP, and really does come into its own as it goes on. Reveals more of itself, more of its personality as the LP goes on. So yeah, this is a top collection right here. At number 14, we have the debut LP from one of modern dubstep's finest, Eptic, with End of the World. And I do think he's got another album in him, if I'm being honest, one following this one. I know this one took him a while to put together, but maybe something that's just a bit more substantial on all fronts, whether it's the amount of tunes we get on the LP, or just how expansive and ambitious he is with the ideas that we get, the individual cuts and whatnot. But still, with this album, even though it is quite short-lived in my opinion, and we could have got something a bit longer from him, I still think there is a lot of classically good material from him, a lot of stuff that sounds just like him, and which is what we've been waiting for, you know, a whole album of his style, which has been welcomed, and which has come at the right time, I think, within his discography and his musical career so far. So a lot of good music to feast on here, and an album that I think will grow on me more over the course of the decade. Yep, Eptic, End of the World. At number 13, a very solid and accomplished, mostly D&B album, I would say, from Justin Hawkes. Existential, yeah, really like the way that this one's made for the most part, the execution of it, the definition of the sound overall, just got a very nice rounded feel to it over the course of the LP, and very good drops on show, some catchy vocals, some catchy melodies as well, a lot of variety with the genre and the tone, you know, a lot of heavy stuff, some more reflective stuff and melancholic stuff. It's all fused and woven together pretty well over the course of the LP, so yeah, like I said, just a solid experience overall. At number 12, another debut LP from another modern dubstep heavyweight, Subtronics with Fractals. And for me with this one, it's just always been about how distinctly it sounds like a Subtronics album. The aesthetic, the approach, just kind of stamped all over it with how off the wall it is, how creative it is, how ambitious he is with the genre, tackling and all that kind of thing across the LP. I think the ratio of good isn't maybe quite as high as those in front of it, which for me is mostly a production thing. You know, you get quite a few tunes here that fall a bit flat on that front, because the creativity is there, and that's why it's firmly here, just outside the top 10, with some of the best material of the whole year on this LP, little motifs and moments and vocals and everything just littered across this LP. So yeah, fully worthy of its spot here, I will say that for sure. At number 11, we have Platinum Scatter by Current Value, who's released many an album over the years, as we all know, and this one might just be my favourite so far. I think more than ever with this one, it's felt more like an experience beyond the music, kind of out of body in a weird way, with dystopian space kind of vibes, just feeling like another world, and yeah, feeling like an entity beyond the musical experience, if you will, just quite unnerving, quite uncomfortable with the abstract nature of a lot of the delivery here of the music, which doesn't sound all that good, but I think it just makes for a very immersive experience, and that is what I love about it so much, placing you in a world and painting that picture very well and very readily. Appreciating the texture of his design a lot more with this LP as well, so a lot of good going for it. Breaking into the top 10 now, and at number 10 we have one of the best duos in bass music, Alex Perez and E-Prom as Shades with From a Vein. Yep, everything I think to love about their style is laid out very well on this LP. You know, there are points where it does drag conceptually quite a bit, little clusters of tunes that, yeah, conceptually, invention-wise, don't have that much going for them and trudge along just a little bit, but there are also fantastic tracks on show here, like for example Into Stone or As Wax by Seal, tracks like that, and then the production is incredible, the atmospheres across the LP are fantastic also, and just nice to hear another album's worth of material from them after, what, 4 years since the last one? Can't quite remember, think it was that long, but yeah, a good LP and a top 10 for sure. At number 9, another top 10 placement following the last one for this artist in 2019. That is Misanthrope with Universe. Yep, this one a very clean and to the point D&B LP or album. And I think I've discovered more with time the emotion bound up in this collection. Just a real remorse to it. Bit of a chance to reflect on stuff, which I love it for a lot. And I also love the way that it kind of carries itself over the course of the collection. Not rushed in any way, just feels quite subtle in what it's going for and quite majestic also in feel. I would have to say, with the grandeur of a lot of these tracks. So yeah, I think could have been a little bit longer, maybe just a little bit, but then at the same time, I do enjoy the trimness of it quite a bit, how, like I said, to the point it is. So yeah, Misanthrope, Universe, number 9. Moving on from there, number 8, we have one of the most revered artists in electronic music at the moment, for sure, no doubt, no question about that. That is Amanu with Unfold, and sonically, I think this might be the best LP that I've heard all year. You know, sound usage, the range of the sounds being used, and the execution of those sounds as well, how they're brought together. Yeah, I think on those fronts, in those ways, this is definitely the best LP that I've heard this year, not only in electronic music, but in music overall. I think he has got catchier ideas in his locker. He's proven that before this LP came out, and after, I would say, as well, actually. He's definitely got catchier, more memorable ideas in his locker, and also potential more so for more story making and storytelling with an Amanu LP. I think he's going to do that, hopefully, with the next one that we get, because this one at points does feel like a little bit of a compilation, just a load of tracks being kind of thrown together without much linearity between them. He's got the potential for that, which isn't quite here, but still, absolutely stacked this album is with good material and the production as well to go with that. So yeah, Amanu, Unfold, number 8. Coming in at number 7, we have the latest LP from one of the very best in modern D&B music. That is Wilkinson with Cognition. And I think when you've got this many infectious vocals at your disposal, you are just going to be making one of the albums of the year. Just plain and simple, that's what's going to be happening, because so many of these tracks and so much of this album is extremely memorable, extremely sticky, catchy, latches onto your brain, goes through your ear holes and sticks right there. And especially also when every beat matches said vocal, or each individual vocal perfectly, with the musicality, the production, the sound usage, which isn't easy to do. You know, we could easily have had a thing where the instrumentals just kind of take over a bit, but the vocals are given their say. And even in the ones where there aren't, you know, where the vocals aren't quite as prominent, the instrumentals still feel quite laid back and like they're not doing all that much, not too much anyway. So yeah, simple but very, very effective, classic Wilkinson. Okay, number 6, we have another absolute journey of an album from Billen with Lands Unbreached. Yeah, some very, very, very good material here, and some of his best, in my opinion, from the last few years or so, last half decade and whatnot. But yeah, some tracks, I think certain tracks here, undoubtedly better when we're talking about the album overall. Couple of duds here and there, but you know, the good stuff really does hit and really gives the album its pizzazz and elevates it into this position on this list. Cosmic Gate, New Groove Order, Gigant, a couple of others here and there across the collection, but riveting, I would say, for the vast majority of it. So even if the ideas aren't maybe quite as enthralling, the production's there, the energy's there, the sound usage very much there, very diverse on all those fronts as well, the amount of genres that are tackled here across the LP, and a nice sense of story to it as well that ties it up really well, especially at the end with that final section that we get, the vocal sampling and whatnot. Another one where there is just so much good here that it can't not place where it places for me. We are now in the top 5, and coming in at number 5, we have something a little bit different actually. A remix LP, and you might be thinking, well, why wasn't that in the compilations video? It isn't a compilation. It is a remix LP divided up between 2 different artists who for me continue to go from strength to strength. Each release they put out, it's just more and more hype, more and more good from them. These 2 are absolutely killing it, and this is a fantastic project, I think. ISOXO, Knock 2, Night Hearts. Yeah, this is just exactly what you want from these 2 in my opinion. I don't think every track is great, not all of the 10, but most of them are. And beyond that, above that, it is just a brilliant idea. You know, what a cool idea for 2 artists who are good friends just to remix 5 of the other's biggest tunes. It's just such a good idea. And the fact that they've conjoined them up here like 2 kind of EPs into an album is just a great idea. I think it's a very cool thing that they've done here. I also think they've both got some of their best material on this album, and there's variety across it as well. Maybe a little bit more so with ISOXO, but there is variety between both of them. The hype of it is unreal. You've got the introduction from Knock 2 opening up the project overall, giving it an album feel, even though it isn't strictly an album, and it is a kind of remix project between 2 people. And some of the best drops of the whole year on this collection as well, in my opinion. Some of the best tracks as well, some of the best remixes. I think 2 of them were in my top 10 of the whole year, so there you go. I've just spouted a lot of good description, and that is why it places here in the top 5. At number 4, we have what is, I think, my favourite kind of more chilled bass album of the year. It isn't entirely chilled. It's not like a laid-back kind of experience. There is heavy stuff here, but I think for the most part, it has more of a chilled vibe, and it is a bit more just dreamy with what it's going for, especially in comparison with everything else we've talked about so far and what I will talk about after this. But yeah, at number 4, Awakening, Enigma Dubs. An album that revealed more of itself over time as I went back to it again and again. Just very open with what it's offering and the avenues through which you can appreciate it, again, I think, on a bit of an emotional level. Very nostalgic in feel, quite meditative, and really launches me back actually to the earliest years when I was getting into electronic music. And I think it's rare that you just get such a good mix of infectious vocals and motifs that repeat really well over the course of these tunes. You know, you get some that don't have that, but most of them do, and that means again that you've got a project that you're going to be going back to again and again pretty much in its entirety. Also got this very icy, wintry feel to it that just amps up that nostalgic vibe, and yeah, like I said, launches you back, puts you back in the moment of your youth, made with a lot of class as well, with the production, the execution. So yeah, I enjoy this one a lot, and it could have even been a little bit higher maybe, were it not for the 3 in front of it, but it will be one of the best of the decade, of the 20s, I think, for sure. We are edging closer now, number 3. This is another great album from a truly fantastic group. They're just so consistent. It's a little bit mad how consistent they are, and I think the more I go back to their music, the more I just let it wash over me, if you will, the more I kind of realise they are one of my favourites ever. Not just one of my favourite groups, but just one of my favourite acts and artists in bass music, in electronic music overall, and in general. It's chasing status with what came before. As I just touched on with these guys, I mean the longevity, the consistency with which they're putting out and releasing music is completely ridiculous in my opinion. Still coming up with this many memorable ideas, this many memorable like lead lines and sounds and vocals to go with that as well, making it all cohere into an effective project that doesn't really waver over the course of it and doesn't have that many dipping points, and just having that iconic chase and status flavour woven into it, running through it pretty much from start to finish. That really old school, authentic UK sound that goes into the D&B, the breaks, the dubstep, etc. And all the while feeling very effortless with the production and not really ever feeling like it's going overboard or trying too much or just, feeling a bit forced in any way. It never has that. Feels just very seamless and effortless with the flow of it, how smooth it is as an album listen. So yeah, again, talked the other day about GOAT and how kind of overused that term is. These guys are GOATs 100%, chasing status, and this is yet another good album from them, like I said. What came before? Number 3. Okay, at number 2, we have The Final Hurrah from one of the very biggest groups that not only bass music, but electronic music overall has ever seen, will ever see, in my opinion, an opinion that is absolutely shared by many. These guys are not just GOATs, but legends as well. The amount they've done for the scene, the amount of incredible music they've made, the culture that they've shaped within this scene and within this kind of circle of music. It's just incredible and in many ways unparalleled, I would say. It is, of course, the Dutch trio Noisia with their final album, Closer. Yes, a strong way to finish and sign off for Noisia with Closer for sure, which doesn't quite rank alongside Split the Atom or Outer Edges for me. It does, like I mentioned with the Amanu, just have a slight compilation feel to it whereby I'm not saying the tracks kind of feel thrown together, but there isn't much of a linearity here, not much of a story being told, where there is that for me with Split the Atom, Outer Edges, other kind of projects they've made and put out before. And I also think that many of the tracks here, if not all of them, the best ones that we get here on this LP were all already out and had been out for a couple of years or so. So the new material that we got with the album, I don't think any of it was up there with, or is up there, sorry, with the best tracks that we get here on this LP. But as a collection overall, it is still another extensive outlay of their style, their production, the riveting delivery of the sounds that they use. And on that front, in those ways, very hard not to like a lot and place in the top 2 spot here. Ultimately, it is just a great thing that they went ahead and did this, put this album together. They didn't have to, they could have just Could have just signed off by releasing all the remix compilations and just saying, you know, we didn't quite have it in us to make another album, it didn't quite feel right, but converging all those good singles that they made over the last 3 or 4 years or so, adding a couple more here and there, putting them all together, yeah, it might sound a little bit like a compilation, it might sound a little bit like they're kind of thrown together, but they're all good pretty much. They've all got something about them. They've all got that classic noisier feel kind of woven in, oozing with creativity and class with the production, the way they're made. So yeah, does it rank alongside their other two, which, lest we forget, some of the best albums in bass music of all time? Maybe not. Maybe it isn't quite that good. But as a sign-off, as a way of tying up their discography, their career as a group, and just everything they've done again for this scene, I think it was just a very good thing for them to have done, and yeah, just a very powerful way generally to sign off with a project of that kind. Yeah, Noisier, Closer, it is my number 2 for 2022. But coming in at number 1, people, for my favourite bass album of 2022. The one that to me felt most like a story and most brought me into a world, if you will. An album that stands head and shoulders above the others when it comes to that. Just giving you an experience beyond the music, making you feel like you're somewhere else entirely, and just constituting as a bit of a unit, a unified thing where not only the music but the visual aspect of it, everything else surrounding it ties together and works towards a specific thing, a motion, an image, an ideal, if you will, you know, really immersing you in the entire world of this thing. And by deduction, you've probably guessed what it is by now, and off the back of me saying all of that, but yeah, number 1, Sudden Death Void Volume 2. It just has to be. Now, Void Volume 2, is it the best made album this year, production-wise? No, you'd probably hand that to Noisier. Are all the tracks here amazing? Is every track here very good? Probably not. I don't think I'd say that. You know, there are a couple here even that I'd call superfluous and don't really add that much to the album. But to counter that, for one, most of it is very well made, I'll say that. And also there is lots of great material on offer across the whole LP. And I would even say, as a kind of extension of that we do get some of his best songwriting ever and yet on this LP, in particular the acts that we get that stitch together the different chapters within this LP. But most importantly, and beyond all of that, the whole thing coheres. It might not have the best production. There are a couple of tracks there that could have maybe fallen by the wayside. But again, it all coheres. I feel locked in. It all ties together. There's linearity here. There's a story here that I can be engaged in and by that really does bring you across its entirety. All of the touches that we get here, whether it be sounds or bits of musicality, little moments kind of stitching together drops and whatnot, vocal samples as well, lest we forget, of varying kinds across the whole LP. They make this thing like a film. Again, it transcends being just music into a visual thing that kind of manifests in your mind and just kind of sits there and torments you over the course of this LP, and in the best way possible. And it isn't just the music on that note, but the visual aspect of it as well. All the trailers and all the films and all the kind of cinematography that we got in the lead up to this album that really set the scene up so well for this album to do well. I think you just have to recognise the lengths that they went to just to make sure that it was in the perfect place and the perfect spot before the album dropped. The amount they did on that front, it's so commendable and really did, like I said, provide that platform, provide that place from which the music could do its thing and do exceptionally well, which it does do, in my opinion. I don't want to say too much more than that. I'm going to be going into more detail at a later date in another video, which I won't talk about now. But yeah, bottom line, this album feels the most like an experience, like a journey, like I'm invested and going along with a story that someone's created. I feel swept up in it from pretty much start to finish. I mean, I keep talking, but it's just because it's got so much going for it. Sudden Death Void Volume 2, my bass album of the year. But there we have it, people. My top bass albums of the year 2022. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. But yeah, now for your input, guys. What do you make of my list? Is it great? Is it crap? Anything in between? Do let me know down below in the comments. And also let me know what your favourite bass albums of the year are, a little list, a little top 5, a 10, whatever. Drop it all down below. Let's get the discussion going. And just before I leave you, top 50 singles are dropping in a couple of days on this channel, so you're going to want to make sure that you're subbed and have hit the bell along the way so you're notified when that video goes live. Beyond that, keep it naughty, and if it's naughty, then you know. And I shall see all of you legends in that next one, my final video of 2022, that top 50 singles. Peace.